WrestleMania, the arcade game, had some of the most bizarre endings in video game history, especially for a WWF WWE game. Serial killer clowns, circuses, golden depressions, and live sex celebrations are just some of the endings that we got here. I'm your host, Bryan, the Hype Ballard, and Tap Out Talk, we're going to go over the most bizarre endings in WrestleMania arcade game history. Let's get in. The Undertaker, Soulless Shadows. After the dust settled and the smoke cleared, The Undertaker stood alone in the spotlight. Silent, he approached his last victim slowly, knelt down on one knee and stared deeply into his eyes. It was the stare so intense, it seemed to go past the man's eyes, past the flesh itself, straight to the soul. Taker lowered his head and covered the man's heart with his hand. The lights mysteriously went black, and all that could be seen through the darkness was a mist-like shape rising from the beaten man and dissipating into the Undertaker. Without any hesitation or remorse, he did this systematically to each of his foes that evening, as if in a hypnotic trance. It's actually a shame, too, because he actually liked some of those guys. It is not surprising, though, as no one ever could understand the ways of The Undertaker, except maybe Paul Bearer. After all was done, The Undertaker disappeared into the blackness and headed off into Death Valley, where he may rest in peace. Razor Ramon, the Golden Depression. Razor took the World Wrestling Federation gold back to Cuba with him. He showed the good people there what America has to offer to anyone who's willing to work to make their American dream come true. Razor became an inspiration to all as he toured the world as a motivational speaker, talking about his American dream come true and showing them the gold. One night after a seminar, while walking back to his car, Razor got jumped by 4 thugs who beat him to an inch of his life and ran off with the gold. All of it, including the stuff around his neck, and now his broken fingers. After that incident, Razor's spirits was shattered and he fell into a state of deep depression. He wallowed in a musty seaside taverns and slept on benches and train stations, until one day he disappeared. He wasn't seen for 3 years. Recent reports indicate that the bad guy is alive and well and running a small pawn shop in Chile. Lex Luger, the Lex Expression. A star-spangled banner for the ultimate American symbol, Lex Luger's victory was re-owned throughout the country and recognized as one of the greatest triumphs of the 20th century. A new national holiday was named, and people everywhere from coast to coast threw open their windows and chanted his name. This was more than just a victory for Lex. It was a victory for the good old US of A. Americans could once again hold their heads high and stand proud. Lex represents all the people in this great land. When he toured the United States in his Lex Express, he brought back a piece of every person in every town he visited. Lex views himself as the product of all Americans who, in his mind, made him what he is, America's All-American. Yokozuna, the rising sun ruins America. With conquest comes honor for Yoko. He has accomplished his mission to defeat the greatest, the world's wrestlers, and to prove that his sumo style of wrestling is superior to all others. By stripping the United States of its championship belt and its dignity, Yokozuna will be referred as one of his country's greatest champions. The consequences of this victory will, no doubt, be the undoing of American culture as we know it. There will be years of adversity, American productivity will disintegrate. Industries will collapse, and the people will wallow in mindless depravity, mere shadows of their former selves. Oh well, it was bound to happen eventually anyway. Guys, if you like wrestling, hit that like button. It allows you to see more wrestling. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing or share with a friend. Thank you. Pyro Bigelow, Bam Bam Bigelow. The remains of his final opponents cooled down after a smoldering ashes. However, Bam Bam did not. Still fired up from the heat of battle, with his eyes glaring, chest heaving, and the licks of flame dancing up from his hands, Bam Bam turned to the audience and delivered a vigilant stare. His eyes scanned back and forth, and a sinister smile crept across his face. He raised his hands without warning. Came a blast of flames which engulfed the entire stadium. The audience was charred to flakes. The stadium was reduced to pebbles, and the WWF title belonged to Bam Bam Bigelow. The undisputed champion stood among the silent ruins of the now shattered amphitheater, master of all he surveyed. Doink the Clown's serial killer circus. The crowd went wild in celebration of Doink's victory. For an encore, Doink dished out a few final blows with his hammer to each of his unconscious opponents. While the circus music blared, Dink and some clown friends bumbled into the arena on elephants and drew laughter from the audience. Everyone was dancing and having a great time as the fireworks went off all around them, until one of the skyrockets exploded too close to the elephants and caused them to panic. They trampled down the entire ring and a sizable percentage of the audience as well. It took a few hours and several hundred tranquilizer darts to get the situation under control, but the survivors of the audience claimed to have had the night and the time of their lives that night. That was Doink's ultimate reward. Bret the Hitman Hart, Heart Attacks film. Through the excellence of execution, Bret finished off the last of the bunch. His victory made the newspaper and magazine headlines throughout the world, and Bret's popularity grew to outrageous proportions while defending his title for 5 years straight. He began a star of stage and screen as well as the ring, appearing in several weekly television dramas and Broadway productions. Unbeatable, he retired as champion to pursue a big screen career in Italy, where he became the greatest spaghetti western star in film history, winning 6 Academy Awards over his lifetime and grossing over $300 million on each of his films. Shawn Michaels, the live sex celebration. Shawn strutted around the ring arrogantly for several minutes, flexing and chewing his gum with an obnoxious smirk on his face. He had always bragged that he was the greatest thing to grace the World Wrestling Federation, and now he has finally proven it. The ladies in the audience reached their arms out to him and screamed his name. With that, Shawn thought he'd be cute by teasing them with a little hip action. The ladies, in the uncontrollable lust-crazed frenzy, stampeded the ring like cattle, trying to get a hold of him. Shawn scrambled to escape the clutches of the horde, but to no avail. They quickly cornered him and proceeded to ravage him mercilessly. When they were through, Shawn was left lying motionless, sans his clothing and some hair. Yet, with a big old grin stampeded on his face, he loved the attention, and more so, he loved the women. His craving for attention and multiple women led him to leave wrestling and become a politician, where he could get his fill of both. Well, guys, here's the final thoughts. What was your favorite? You played WrestleMania the arcade game as a kid, and you may have not even thought about reading some of these or really grasping what they could have been in the endings. What was the most top-ranked WrestleMania arcade game ending? What was the most shocking? Was it the Golden Depression, the serial killer circus? Let me know down in the comments below. And for now, it's not goodbye. It's just game over.